Welcome to From My Lens and happy 1st of July. Today is a special day with two of my special guests, Valery Dayrit and Mark Allerton. Today's topic is the new consciousness. Before we dive right in, I would like to give you a brief introduction about Valery. She is a prolific writer and a poet. Her journey to writing started 4 years ago. From that point on, she never stopped. She spends her days being daydreaming and traveling in her sacred meditation fields, simply writing away. She writes about many layers and depth of both the consciousness of humanity and the soul, merging the relationship into self without the separation by bridging a higher awareness of the self in the physical reality, and that at a soulful existence. Through the process of ceaseless writing, she has entered a beautiful world filled with many wisdoms and knowledge, and so far has now evolved to 4 books published on Amazon, and many more to come. Consciousness is the life force that gives birth to bring forth what is dream into reality, by Valery Dayrit. Valery Dayrit, welcome to From My Lens. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. I mean, it's hard not to be in that space. It's beautiful to be alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is the new consciousness? I often hear that you speak of consciousness, even in the recent 4 books you have written. You mentioned consciousness a lot, and it feels like it's something that's very close to you. What is consciousness?
The question that you asked first was, what is the new consciousness?
Absolutely.
Well, I would say that the new consciousness is here.
Mm-hmm.
It has arrived. It's what's happening right now in the world, actually. People are awakening, people are rising, and people are marching towards something that calls them to do something that is not right. So we are existing in the new consciousness. Right now, what's happening is we are building the new consciousness. So together, what we are doing is we're working to fix what has been broken. Mm-hmm. Which is something that we are, ourselves are very broken.
Yes.
But we are now recognizing that there is a bigger problem, and it's not just a problem as a person, but it's becoming this a global consciousness that it has now become all our problem. Something that has been there the whole time, but now we have managed to really kind of now awaken to this idea that something is really not right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and another question for you. So, it's so easy to go into subconscious state of mind and make life decisions based on that. How does one get into a state of consciousness, or should I say the new consciousness?
I'd say that it's not an easy thing to do, but it is something that the self must do. It is a choice, it is a decision that one must make, because unless you choose for yourself to wake up, to be in the moment, to see what's happening around you, to make an impact, not just with yourself, but others as well. The thing is, you are also destroying yourself if you are not making the conscious effort to find some sort of balance within you.
Yes.
You know, your happiness, your purpose, your daily, what is it that you are doing every day? Are you utilizing the time and your space to be more proactive that gives pleasure to yourself? Or is it something that you are wasting your time on doing something that is going against something that makes you happy, for example?
Yeah. And
so then that creates more being in a space of a negative space, if you would say that. That's a term that a lot of people use.
Yes.
And a term that a lot of people understand. But more for me, the way I see it is that you are resisting yourself. Mm-hmm. You're resisting your purpose, your reason of being here, right now and in the moment and in the now, and being a part of the new consciousness, being a part of the new evolution, being part of the change, the shift, being a part of being something bigger than yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. And I also wanted to invite, because I know that's something I didn't talk about earlier, but we also have Mark Allerton as our guest to, just kind of share this energy with us, who I had the privilege of interviewing as in my second episode. So thank you, Mark Allerton, for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask Valery.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a lovely time. Yeah.
Awesome. And I think it's amazing to even go outside of our comfort zone to even do this, not just for me, but even for Mark here as well, and for you.
And for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just something I wanted to quote here from your book is, consciousness is the intelligent system that link and binds all living forms, both in the physical and the spiritual world. It is the bridge that connects the wisdom and knowledge from the universe to the self. I love this quote, first of all. And can you what is your mindset behind all the quotes, everything that you write in such a poetic way? How do you come up with this?
They usually just come very fluidly, mm-hmm. and it happens at any given moment, and my consciousness is open. My channels are open to receive these beautiful high frequency vibrations of knowledge. And so it's like a stream of these beautiful, beautiful wisdoms and knowledge that I simply write down. And I'm open to it, and anyone can be open to those kind of knowledge. The thing is, we are surrounded with all of these knowledge and wisdoms. We all have it in all of us. It's just a matter of being open to it, being open to yourself, being open to your soul purpose, and being open to understanding yourself. Mm-hmm. Because I believe that most of the problem that's happening out in the world is that people are afraid of themselves.
Yeah.
People are so afraid in discovering their depths. That's both in the physical world, which is our humanity, mm-hmm. and as well as our soul, which is, people would say, the spiritual realities in what sense, or realms. But for me, it's more about bridging the gap of the separation of the self, of the physical person as I am here in this physical reality, as my soul as well. So what I'm doing, from my understanding for myself, is that I'm bridging those two. Mm-hmm. Is that I have a balance of existence both as my physical self, as a human being, and as my soul. And that's what I believe is where spirituality as a wholesome together, in a sense, where a lot of people exist mainly on their physical self, which, when I say that, just their human self, without having to acknowledge the fact that there is beyond the human self, that which is your soul, mm-hmm. and beyond that are all this amazing, highly conscious knowledge and wisdom, which we are missing and not utilizing. Mm-hmm. And so, that's, I guess, is where I get my inspirations from.
Okay, great. Yeah.
And so, I guess the question I have, because I'm kind of new to this, but for you, because I know we kind of briefly spoke at the beach about it, but when was it that you kind of went from that physical human self to that spiritual self? You mentioned it was a couple of years ago or something, was it? Or what was it that made it click for you?
I was born into this. I was born into it. However, you can close those doors, which is what we do.
Yes.
We close those doors based on fear, on, society or whatever the case is, whatever the reason is, we close those doors. And there comes time when we kind of open those doors again, which becomes even more scarier, because it's something both of a familiar and not at the same time. Right? Something that you recognize, something that you've been to before. It's like when you were a child, there was some sort of freedom into this, because we are born into this. And then along the way, we close those doors, right? So then for me, it was roughly about 10 years ago, I opened up to it again. And then I guess I must have gone into a very, very deep meditation and somewhere that I was scared of, that I wasn't ready for. And then I closed it again. And then 4 years ago, I opened it again, because then I was ready. And so that's when I started my writing.
So it was 4 years ago that you really kind of opened back up again, and then here you are now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing. So this quote that I just quoted you on consciousness, is the intelligence system, is from a recent book that you wrote called Masters and Alchemies. Why and how did you come up with this title?
Masters and Alchemies just came just like that. Like everything else, like with my writing and all, it just seems like it's what fitted the book itself. And what was within the book. I believe titles are really, really important, is because it's the essence of an entire book. And it's a really powerful one too.
Right. And it's just kind of like flowed with everything that you were working on at that time.
Yes.
Right. Also, what is the purpose role of philosophy in relation to psychology?
Ooh. Yes.
Caught you there.
No, it's psychology is almost like, it's again, so when you're talking about psychology and philosophy, for me, the way I look at this is that psychology is humanity.
Yes.
Philosophy is spirituality. Now you need to find the balance with those two and try and merge those two, is where you can find something that is of a master, once you understand those two importance. Is that, I'm not saying you can't have one or the other, but if you are leaning too much into one or the other as well too, we are humans after all. So if you lean too much on the spirituality, it's a beautiful space to be in it, but you are human. You are also here to experience to be what it's like to be human. And through philosophy, what that is basically enlightenment, in a sense where without being human being, you can't be enlightened either. So you must go through the process of being human to reach those enlightenment with that philosophy. And so it's where it's a psychology. So it's both, these two things are two worlds that are, most people's either exist on a, one or the other.
But not together.
And so I would say bridge those two, and you can find a balance, your balance, and you can understand yourself at a deeper level through that process.
Right. Another thing I wanted to discuss was like most recent political and environmental crisis is why we have not, in this age of advanced scientific and technologies progress, made but little psychological progress in determining why things are the way they are, both cosmologically and terrestrially in our planet, especially when it comes to regarding our human process. So what you just said right now, like spiritually and psychologically, is that something that is somehow connected?
I think what has happened in history is that we have distorted a lot of our spiritual aspect based on gain and greed. As human evolve in society, is that we have lost our way in terms of our spiritual self, our soul purpose, our reason of being here. And so what has happened with what we've done in terms of that is that we've shed a lot of that. We've lost a lot of it, and therefore we've moved and transitioned ourselves into being more into the space of destroying like the planet, because we have,
and the spiritual being,
and that aspect of the spiritual self itself, right, is that that's what has happened in society. And if you look in history, we are existing in a cycle. Yes. We're recycling everything, history over and over and over and over. It is like we are stuck in a time frame, in a loop that we can't get out of. Mm-hmm. However, there are quite a few people who are awakening to this process now, and it is these people that are doing these major work in trying to shift the consciousness into stepping into the new consciousness, because there are people beforehand that were talking about the new consciousness, and so then people gravitated to the idea of a new consciousness, and now it's all about we are existing in the new consciousness, and it's all about now being here, being in the moment, developing this new time frame, this new space that we are working and walking towards into for the future. Because to be honest with you, I really don't think that unless we stop this madness of cycle that we are doing to one another, mm-hmm. I think that the planet is not going to be able to sustain for much long. And that's something that I write about in my books, is because that's what I think is what I feel that we are where we are heading. Yeah. Unless there's a shift, and unless we stop.
And how can we stop? And how can we create that shift?
It's all in my books. What I write about is all about the philosophy of oneself. Everything originates with oneself. Everything, our happiness, our sadness, everything, And so whatever you create within yourself, we are projecting that onto the people that we surround ourselves with, and then it becomes bigger. If you want to make that bigger, it becomes into society, then it becomes into a whole country. Yeah. And then it becomes into a global state. And so that's where we are right now, is that we are in a global state. And so unless we do something about it as a self first, where it begins in that.
So start within us.
You start within yourself by healing yourself. Because once you heal yourself, once you do the work, and once you heal yourself, what you're doing in that is that you are healing the planet with it, the people that you are around with it, and then hopefully that becomes overall, as maybe one day, as a global, it's all in the self.
Right. So you heal yourself first, and then gradually you'll start seeing everything else around you heal.
Yes, it's a chain.
Yeah. Cool.
So we're kind of like almost reversing the damage we have done.
Yeah.
There's a chain of damaging one another. All it takes, honestly, is one person to step out of that, to break that chain.
Right.
And start another chain. Right. And that chain could be all about, healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Love, first of all, plays in everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is what binds everything into anything that you would do.
Yes.
Any other reasons or what goes behind in what it is that you do in terms of you're trying to accomplish in life, I'm not sure about that in a sense, mm-hmm. Because to me, love has no reasons but to love.
Yes.
Everything else will have reason to gain for themselves.
Yes.
It's all about that.
Right. Cool. And I remember just speaking with you last week, you talked about seed of change.
I thought that was you who talked
Well, yes, that was me. But then you did elaborate on that. Can you elaborate on that again today? Just because I felt it was so powerful.
It's exactly what we're talking about in this topic, right? It's all about, right now, it's all about planting all these changes that must begin with oneself. And so, yes, plant away all the seeds of changes, because any change will have to start from oneself. And these seeds that you have to plant into yourself are something that you have to be aware and conscious of, where you're evolving within yourself.
Right.
It's like, you're planting something that, where would you like to go in terms of, for me, I exist mainly my life in terms of, I looked at things at a very, very highly spiritual space point of view. Mm-hmm. That's where I look at things. And so when I'm planting seeds in myself, it's more all about for my evolution of myself. Mm-hmm. And what can I do better for myself today and tomorrow and because what I do today will affect my tomorrow, and what I do today will also affect the future of the planet itself.
Yeah.
And so it's all within us.
Right.
And it's,
so it's like everything that you do, everything that you decide it's advisable to take that conscious decision now, just because with the way the world is headed at this point.
I would say so, yes.
Every bit counts.
I agree with that. Every bit counts, yes. Yeah. We are now in that stage where everything that we do does matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you think the future seems right now, like with everything that's going on?
So I traveled in my meditation into the space of it was gruesome, actually. What I saw was a lot of death.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lot of souls dying all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the purging, and so we are still in that space of purging, and a lot of us are still going to be leaving this planet because of the shift. That's what's happening right now in terms of when you're talking about psychological and spiritual. The thing is, we are being hit with a new time frame where the old time frame is being closed.
Mm-hmm.
And in the old time frame it was a lot of the old cycle that was recycling itself.
Right.
The new time frame that we are existing into is more of a higher consciousness, and so a lot of people are not going to be able to maintain the frequency of this shift and this change. So then I find a lot of people are probably going to be passing from this. When I say it's a lot of death that's going to be happening, it's just because we are moving to an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that space of evolution, we are being pulled to a higher consciousness.
Yeah.
And the people who can't move with that motion, I honestly feel that it's hard on their body.
Right.
And I would probably think that.
What can they do? Like, do you think like reaching out to meditation or that higher power and consciousness that you are?
It's all about healing the self.
Yeah, healing yourself.
It's always healing the self.
Because you can't take those traumas with you to the next level,
No,
and that's exactly
can't.
what's happening. By being able to just start something new, you need to let go of your traumas and of that broken self.
You have to let go of the past.
Let go of the past, exactly.
Because that was the old time frame.
Mm-hmm.
The old consciousness was all about recycling in the past.
Right.
And so if you look into the past and into the now, we are still existing in the past, and we are kind of like existing in the history of our ancestors' rules and regulations and laws and all of that, and it's still being applied to where we are at now.
Mm-hmm.
Which then is pulling us, instead of us going forward, it's pulling us to go backward to what was the old belief system that our ancestors were believing in. We are still believing in that.
Yeah.
Is that we need to really, really kind of understand where did those old belief system came from.
Right.
And how did it get integrated into society, and then how did it kind of made it seem like it has now become that these are the laws of how we should exist our daily life into. Yes. And so we have been programmed and suppressed into these kind of like old mental type of consciousness, and so those are being broken down now. So when I say a lot of people are not going to be able to move forward with the new consciousness, is because it's too much for them to kind of it takes a toll on the physical, and it, a lot of people are having a breakdown as we're speaking right now because
in terms of mental health
breakage, right? Of where the old consciousness and now we're moving to new consciousness, is that we are now in transit too, so some have awoken to this because they've been doing their work for many, many years, and they knew this was coming, and now that it has come in here, right, and so a lot of people are in transit, and then a lot of people also now awakening. So unless you do your part in this puzzle, right, and you move forward with the motion, you either get stuck behind, or I don't know. I mean, I'd say
no. That's exactly it.
Right,
you're completely right on that.
Yeah, it's love. It's self-love.
Yes.
And in that space, in that consciousness, is where I would say utopia is exists in that center.
Right.
You know,
that happiness.
Yeah. Not just that happiness, but that understanding of love in itself. And then it goes back to God, you know, in a sense where we are all born with this in us, in our soul. You know, this utopia that you're looking for, it's all within in all of us. It's just something that we have kind of shut those doors on,
right?
Because we think that our happiness can be found elsewhere, or you know, you see someone else is having something that you feel like, oh, maybe I feel like I should have that too, because it seems like that person is happy with that.
Yes.
You know, the thing is, from something that I've learned in all my travels, is that true wealth lies within your soul. That's where it is. Yeah.
That's a great point.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's incredible. And just like, what are the most promising prospects do you think that our listeners can take away from this?
Love yourself. And you know, and there's no day like today, this moment, to do it. You know, if it has to be tomorrow, then it will have to be tomorrow. But where you are right now, if you're listening to this, it would be all about loving yourself. Because once you discover that, it is where you will see God itself, you know, is in there. Is understanding that love. And once you discover self-love as well too, there's a foundation in that. There's a foundation like no other. And you can't be broken from that. No one can take away your self-love.
Right.
Yeah.
And for like, I guess, for anyone who's like listening and they're like thinking to themselves, right, I've never actually been exposed to this before, but I kind of want to be involved and I want to like go on this kind of spiritual journey. I want to get into meditation. What kind of like advice would you say for someone who wants to get into meditation? Because I know we briefly spoke about this, but I think it's good to have it on here. Like, what advice, if someone says, right, I want to get into meditation, what advice would you say is the best way to go about it? Is there a certain, you know...
Start listening to yourself.
Right.
Start listening to your needs, to your wants, to your pain. It's all in there. And it's like when you're talking about doors, you've closed those doors to yourself. And you've opened yourself to the door of, let's say, the outside world. When I say that, I mean the physical world where it's all about society, or it's just outside. So for me, it's all about inside when it comes to starting your meditation, which means start listening to your thoughts. Because, you know, your thoughts contains a lot of information. And it's really fascinating once you start listening to what is going on in your mind, what information you have put in there. And then, you know, then you will get to a point where you will understand these informations that you have within you. Is it something that is valuable to you, or is it something that you have to let go? And then you, as you start looking into your thoughts and what's happening in your body and in your mind and all of that, they're all related in the sense where the thing is, thoughts carries weight. And so they start to weigh you down. So when you start acquiring a lot of information, that weighs down your physical body as well too. And so then you have to be aware on what information you have within you. Are they of beautiful informations, or informations that are, I call it junk informations, and they're just seething in there. And so now it's turning into it could make you sick as well too, because thoughts can actually also make you sick.
Yes,
right?
That's another point right here. Yeah.
Right? And so these will take a toll on your physical body. They start storing into, like, they turn into energy, and then they start storing into your, into your body and all that stuff. So there's that as well too. And so when you're asking me about starting, how do I start my meditation, it's all about walking within yourself, and that's when you can start that. Opening that door to yourself. And that's where you will discover the magic that exists in there of yourself. And don't be afraid of it. It's a beautiful process, and don't rush it. There's no rush when it comes to that.
It's almost like finding that authentic self of yours, right?
Yes, because when you want to think about what you've stored into your brain or whatnot, is that how much is in there that belongs to you in that information. What percentage is it in there that is yours? And so for me, when I went through my process, I literally went through my thoughts as if it was my closet, and I went through them piece by piece, and I discovered that a lot of information that I put in there, that I have stored in there, weren't mine. They were given to me by family members, by friends, by, starts with that. As a young child, you start with that, right? You will get to that point of it. Then I had to do a lot of clearing, right? And so this is when I say, start with that, I guess, in a sense where, I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do, because dealing with the self is never an easy thing to do. It is the reason why we would rather run away from ourselves than to face ourselves, because it's not an easy thing to do. But is it worth it?
And that's when a lot of people tend to gravitate towards being subconscious and really facing the consciousness of what's life is and their needs are telling them.
I get what you mean. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Like, because when I spoke to you, I was under the impression that the best way to start would be to do the breathing and stuff. And I know you mentioned that's kind of a Western way of kind of going about it, but it's better to kind of listen to your thoughts first, and then take it from there. Really.
Yes. Yeah. Because what I said to you was that breathing comes automatically.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's a big one. So just listen to your thoughts as a first step, and then
exactly.
And then just go with the junk stuff. Because there's a heap of stuff in there that
that you don't need.
Society's kind of pushed onto you to believe a certain way and think a certain way, when you actually think, is that actually how I should think, or am I just thinking that because I'm told to think that way?
Right. And then you will discover that these thoughts that you have deposited in your in your brain, where you've stored them, the fascinating thing about that is that once you start ejecting them out of you, is that you will find where you have buried yourself amongst all of those thoughts.
Layerings.
You are in the bottom. And so then you wonder why you couldn't hear yourself. It's because you've suppressed yourself so far, so deep down into a hole, that by the time you get to that space, you'll be like, wow.
It took me that long to realize it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right? It's like, I can't believe that that's what I've done to myself, kind of deal. Yeah.
So I guess this might sound like a bit of a stupid question, but if you're going from you go into the step of listening to your thoughts, and then you're noticing there is a lot of junk in there that's been kind of pushed on you from a young age, what's the best way to remove them kind of thoughts?
That's where the choices comes. That's where I love that.
What did you do? What was effective for you?
So those thoughts will come to you as if you've opened a window on a computer. It's a lot of these windows open. I guess the question to yourself, a choice that you make to yourself, is now when you actually start to arrange all of these thoughts, where you go, is that some information that I want to keep for myself? Or is that an information that is a junk information? So then that's when you start learning to delete them.
Right.
Okay.
Right?
Almost like deleting them from your inbox that you don't need, and even from your junk, because it just piles up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So then when you're going through that observation or thinking, like listening to your thoughts, there's going to be thoughts that come up there, and you're going to be like, that's not me. That's not how I think. But I've just kind of accustomed to that. Then you need to kind of go down the action of, right, I need to remove this. You know, that's kind of how you do it, right? Yeah. And then one by one.
And in those thoughts, you will also discover histories of patterns in there, and then that's where you actually learn and understand the cycles you've been existing in. That you have been playing in this chain of cycles that we have been existing in, right?
So when you do that, then so say you're listening to your thoughts now, and say I hear a thought there that, you know, right, that, and I know it's junk. Then do you just instantly try to remove that, or do you try to go down the rabbit hole of thinking, where did that come from? You know, do you dig like so?
That is the beauty of self-discovery.
Right. You like dig into it, right, and be like, well, where did I get that from?
Yeah.
And then you try to go back and back and back and go, that's where it kind of started, and then that's who was around to influence that, or the exposure, right?
Yeah.
And
then from that point on, you have a choice. You choose to either leave that in there, or you choose to take it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's powerful, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's, for me, that's like so new to me. Like, because I'm kind of new to this anyway. Like, I've only recently, over the last year and a half, been exposed to a few people, and then listening to you at the beach that day is really powerful for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't stop talking about you to God.
Yeah.
Like, I kept saying, like, it was so interesting. Like,
I'm kind of glad that you asked, what's that book called? Even though it had no name at that time, but you know, it was just so powerful, just having to connect with your energy and with you.
I believe in everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, so I was compelled to ask that question for no reason.
And it just happened, right?
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, but it's so powerful because the perception is, I'm sure there's like millions of people out there that don't really know. Maybe they do want to kind of like go down this path, but then they don't really know how to do it, or what, you know, what's the best place to start.
And I think like hopefully this podcast, you know, whoever's listening and can gravitate towards and take your information and your words of wisdom from this and be able to apply it in their own life.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, it's all about the self, and again, understanding the self. And I think, Mark, you're the perfect example of that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I am excited for your journey, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I also want to end this podcast by quoting you, saying I trust the writing of my hands in darkness. It is a consciousness in itself. I trust the words and knowledge that is revealed where no light exists. That is very powerful. I truly hope your words will change the world, Valery. And I like to thank you for coming onto this platform to share your tremendous talent and words of wisdom with us. This is truly powerful experience. Thank you for sharing the new consciousness.
Thank you for having me.
And I guess your books are going to be available for people to be able to buy at some point on Amazon, I guess.
They are available at the moment at Amazon. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And then those of you who want to reach out, I have a link in your bio with your Instagram handle.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you have it with Valery and Mark talking about the new consciousness. Also, if you would like to get hold of her books and would like to know her better, I have added a link in her bio and her Instagram handle. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.